Hi there, good afternoon everyone. Welcome, my name is Jamie Challis. I'm the UK Director at Findologic. We're a search and navigation solution. And I'm joined today with one of our clients, Gareth Jones, who heads up e-commerce and digital marketing at Pour Moi.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
So this afternoon we're going to be sharing some insights, some tips, and taking through really some best practices of CX that you can take away today and ensure that your own website monetizes itself to its full potential. Actionable guidelines to on-site search optimization. So first of all, Gareth, can you talk a bit about Pour Moi?
Yeah, thanks for that, Jamie. So thanks again for having me here. It's very exciting to be here. I hope you've all enjoyed all the speeches and so on today. I'm looking forward to checking a few out. In terms of what Pour Moi do, we're a fashion, lingerie and swimwear brand, and we're on a mission to make customers feel sensation. So the main goal of our products is all about body confidence and making people feel glamorous and splendid in whatever they're wearing at any time. I'd say the main things that we're focusing on in the brand is making people feel their own brand of fabulous wherever they are. And we believe in being innovative and trendsetters and working together to achieve more. And we're about sugar, spice, and all things glam. And I had to put that in, so that's there. I'm very proud of that bit, I'm just going to say.
Perfect. Okay, a bit about us. So we're a pure, I suppose, a search navigation solution we call best of breed. So we spent the last 12 years creating something really amazing that basically allows over 1,000 retailers that work with us today and to deliver meaningful online experiences for their customers. We're constantly releasing new features and beating our competitors to the post. We're more of a support-led company compared to others in our space. So, the process of onboarding is, first of all, you would have a project manager that will take you through the integration process. Once you're live, you then, regardless of, who you are or how big your site is, you'll have your own account manager to look after you. But you also have a great back office that you can log into and basically do most of the stuff yourself. Our product is designed for busy marketeers. The idea is that, it's minimal input on yourself and basically it just runs itself in the background. So so we've a recent study showing that there are so many people out there getting search wrong. For example, 60% of e-commerce sites are unable to produce results if the search term is just a tiny bit wrong. Even in the title, just one character wrong makes a massive difference. Most sites don't include contextual help, and over half of e-commerce sites don't offer faceted search filter suggestions. So, as I see it, when someone interacts with the search bar, it's like if someone were to go into a physical store and actually say to the store assistants, "I'm looking for X." That's a green light that this person actually wants to buy something. So it's really important that you make it as easy for them as possible, and you actually understand them.
I think you're absolutely right, Jamie. I mean, I always think that people who are engaging in search are showing a strong intent to sell. So they're one of your target customers you really want to be going after. And at the same time, I also think people have gotten so used to good search that it's not enough just to have a search bar anymore. Like Google's where a lot of people start their website on their online journeys nowadays. And I kind of think they're, for better or worse, always setting a very high bar, and people will just come onto your website and interact with it in a way that they're accustomed to. Like I've often thought it's interesting since we put in Findologic, the amount of people who are searching for, I don't know, say when we work with influencers, sometimes people will just put them in the search bar. I mean, I would never do that on a website because I search for products and I know that's how search works on websites. But users don't know that and they just search for whatever they're looking for. And we need to make sure that we're providing the right results to them.
Absolutely, and they're found. Lovely. Perfect. So what are we seeing? So, this is from the customer side, a demand for instant gratification. People are, they're lazy when they interact with websites. Particularly the younger generation are expecting search bars to interact with them. They're expecting, their keyword searches to be completed. They're expecting, when they misspell a word for it to be understood. 80% of users choose from the first three results, which is really something we should be aware of. It's important that the top of your listings, include those results that should be there. Like I say, very misspelled searches, very broad searches. Retailers, particularly in fashion, they think that people, they don't believe that the majority of their users are actually searching for jeans, jumpers, shirts. You know, very few searches are specific. And it's really important that those searches are sort of understood and refined in a way that makes it easier for the customer.
You're absolutely right on that one. I mean, that was something that since we've started working with you, I've been really interested in how much of the search volume goes into the upper funnel searches. And I certainly think some of that's because of the assisted suggest. So we're like, here are some recommended searches. And so people tend to, I mean, that's kind of the thing. People will click on a search that you suggest to them more frequently that they'll enter a long tail search term. No one's searching for like size small jeans in black. I mean, it would be great because we could convert them really easily, but
certainly doesn't work like that. Lovely. On the AI side, you know, it's earmarked to be as disruptive as the internet itself. So we've implemented AI to, you know, every feature within our selection suite. And there's one particular part of what we do that we're going to share later on, which really sets us aside from any other provider in our space. Machine learning obviously is constantly allowing the search results to be optimized. You know, and we also include a voice search as part of our offering too, particularly on a mobile device. You know, big hands, small keys, limited screen space, you know, so much easier to talk into the device.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not sold on whether voice search is going to really blow up, but I do think it's better to be safe than sorry. I've been wrong about that before. I wasn't sure that mobile was really going to blow up for mobile commerce because I was like, no, it's much too much work shopping on your phone. But I'm glad that I got ready anyway. Going on to what you were saying about the importance of the first three results, right? I think relevance is obviously a major challenge with search, and it's one of the reasons why we were looking for a more up-to-date search provider when we were doing the website redesign. But I think relevance is really important with user experience in general, because one of the main challenges in UX, particularly on mobile devices, is you've got a lot of functionality, you've got a lot of options you want to offer to the user. I mean, I know e-commerce isn't the most complicated user experience, but it's certainly the one that's most common, I think, in terms of UX. But it's about offering the relevant option. So if you've only got a small screen on mobile, you want to make sure that whatever functions the user needs are there available to them, but without cluttering up their experience or interfering with what they're trying to do. And the last thing users want, in my experience, is intrusive little messages and arrows and stuff getting in the way of what they're trying to do. If they just want to shop, then I'm like, let's get out of their way and just give them the add to bag button. But I do think at the same time, you want to kind of subtly encourage users to take the actions that are going to be most favorable. So for example, we were talking about the value of search customers in terms of e-com. I mean, search conversion rates maybe 3 or 4 times higher than your site average. So that's why, for example, on our mobile redesign, we made sure that the search bar was always visible at the top of everyone's page, because I know that everyone who clicks on that bar is going to be more likely to spend money with us. I think the reason that we've got Homer on this page, by the way, for everybody who's watching, I don't know if you've seen this one, but there's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer meets his long-lost brother who runs a car factory, and his brother asks him to design a car. And instead of going for what we're talking about, which is simple but persuasive, subtle touches to encourage the user to go the right way, he literally throws the kitchen sink at the design, and you end up with a beast that costs loads to build, doesn't really work, and ultimately destroys his brother's company. So that's obviously what we're not going for, and instead we're trying to go with elegant solutions. I mean, I think one of the things I was really pleased with when we were working on this project was how nicely we got the design and the user experience part of the whole thing to work. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the project itself, so it was our 4th website iteration. I joined the company just before lockdown last year, so it's been an interesting first year at Pour Moi. The first project I had was to do a complete website overhaul. And in terms of what we were trying to achieve with the project, obviously, for me, it's about reducing total clicks. I always think that every time you get someone engaging with your website, it's another chance for them to exit. So I want as few screen loads as possible, as few clicks as possible, get the user to the place that they want to be as quickly as you can, and let them get to that checkout screen and press pay. Job done, right, as quickly as you can. The other thing was we're a very aesthetic brand. We're very photo-led. You know, it's about a beautiful, sensational experience from start to finish. So we wanted to make sure the website was as sexy as some of the products are. I wanted to increase relevancy of results. When I was doing some initial scoping when I first joined, I wasn't happy with what some things were coming up in some of those searches. Like we were saying, the first 3 results have to be the best 3. So I wanted to make sure we had a search solution that would manage some of those queries more effectively. I wanted to increase how many users were making searches, And at the same time, like one of the things I always think about is, it's not like in e-com you can be a tech provider where we can differentiate ourselves. Like you were saying how like you've built technology that can allow you to stay ahead of your competition. Obviously in fashion, it's quite difficult. If we bring out a really cool bra, then there might be one quite similar to it within another year. So for me, it's more about staying a step ahead rather than being like, we can't create barriers to entry. So instead, it's just about first mover advantage. So I wanted to make sure that we had technology on the website that really set us apart from our competitors. And those are all the things I was looking for when Jamie came my way.
Quick one on the percentage of users who use search. We know that obviously search converts so much higher than any other part of the site. Aside from making the search bar a lot more prominent and easy accessible, is there anything else that you did as part of that journey to try and get more people to interact and actually tell you what they're looking to buy?
I wouldn't say so with search particularly, because I think, like I said, it's about being subtle but firm. So we made the search easy to find. Obviously we increased the value of the search experience to the user. So I think there'll be more repeat users of search, because I think anyone who tries it, generally the feedback is that it's really great and they like it, it's quick and easy, it helps them get their journey done quicker. So I think over time that'll be the case. But I think there's only so much you can do to encourage users to make smart actions. They're going to use the website however they want, and we mostly need to respond to whatever they start doing to it, is what I always think. But like I said, I think mainly anyone who tries it is going to keep trying it.
It's pretty neat. Lovely. Okay. Well, Gareth and I are going to have a little chat now about the whole process that they went through in selecting a search provider, and the journey that we've been on to date. So we'll do that. We'll stop sharing the screen, and we'll carry on. So Gareth, I think we should start this chat around search. I think search is obviously at the core of what we do, and certainly at the forefront of a lot of the modifications you were making to the CX side of your website. How do you find your customers are typically searching on Pour Moi?
Well, I think it's an interesting question. Like we were saying earlier, I've been really surprised since we implemented Findologic, because obviously I get all the search query data, is what percentage of searches are upper funnel searches. If anything, going to the analogy you were talking about earlier with regards to, is your website like a shop, is that I think most people who walk in a shop haven't really decided what they want yet. Sometimes I'll go shopping, and maybe I'm not a typical shopper anyway, certainly not for Pour Moi, but sometimes I'll have a clear idea. I'm like, yeah, I want that, I'm gonna go get it. But then if that's the case, I almost certainly wouldn't go shopping. I'd order it on Amazon. Anyway, point is, people walk in your shop, then yeah, they want to shop with your brand. They'll certainly be willing to have a conversation with you about what they might want to buy. But I think it's for us to make sure that we're finding something for them quickly. And they won't necessarily give us a lot of indication what that is. Like I said, most searches are upper funnel. So the most common search on the site is bra, with no further information. And that's probably 2 to 4 times more popular as a search than the next most common search term. And yeah, okay, we have a lot of nice bras, and we sell a lot of bras, but that isn't, if someone walked into a shop that we, say we've got the shop in Macclesfield, and we were like, yeah, I want a bra. So going on to your point, and when we come on to Lisa later on, I think being able to help the customer refine their intent is really an important next step. But also, I think there's 2 ways you can address it, right? So a customer comes in and they're looking for a bra. You can either ask them for more information, or you can look at what information they're already giving you without realizing. So online, we have a lot of additional contextual information that we can understand about a customer. So I can tell if they're a Facebook customer, what ad they've clicked on. If they're a returning customer, we may have additional cookie-based information about that customer. And so we can use that to refine their experience. I'm really big on the personalization side of things generally. So for me, personalization in search is a really important part of search, but also just in general with the whole experience. We need to be using as much information as we can about that customer in order to give them the most relevant experience, whether that's in search or throughout their navigation.
On the intent side, what do you guys do to understand the customer intent? So I know you touched on a couple of things then around, the historical information and interact with them, but, going on the fact that so many searches are relatively vague, and just in that kind of search, the customer's clearly crying out for help. What are the various things that can happen on Pour Moi's site when someone goes on and does, like I say, such a vague open search?
Okay, I don't want to get overly technical, but basically the way I always think about it is you're kind of like building an information pyramid or something about that customer. The less information you have, the more reliant you are on kind of like best practice or using bestsellers. So for example, we would always use merchandising to control the bestsellers. So we'll have certain products that are boosted up the results. So if someone's searching for a bra, they'll be quite likely to see our most popular ones. That's always a good place to start if we don't have any more information about that person. But then as they engage with the website, we start to collect signals. They're kind of giving buying intent all the time with how they interact. I mean, I kind of have this theory of a more idealized web experience where we're kind of tracking every interaction the customer has all the time with the website and offsite as much as possible, so that we can really start to understand what kind of photography, colors, every attribute that we could be tracking that they're going to engage with. And then you can use that to build a customer profile and use that to drive the relevancy of their experience.
Lovely, perfect. Okay, going back to many moons ago when we first had our conversations when you guys were looking at implementing a search provider onto the site.
I mean, on the search side, I felt that there were certain search terms that were not providing relevant results. I think that's an ongoing challenge. And if anything, it's a data challenge as much as a technology challenge. I mean, we'll talk more about this later, but I kind of think, garbage in, garbage out is very real, especially with search. If you give products the wrong titles or they're not correctly tagged up from an attribute perspective, then they're going to show up and appear irrelevant. But I mean, the system's got no way of knowing that. But either way, there were certain search terms. Our most popular searches weren't returning results that I thought would be likely to drive conversion. I wanted to fix that. I'd had some experience with as you type search and the ability to use custom sorting algorithms to control search results. And our developers thought maybe we could develop something like that internally, but I wasn't sure that would be a good use of our limited resource. So, part of it was about thinking about if we could partner someone who would be able to extend and improve our development capability. Other pain points were just making the whole website feel a little bit more up to date. I think we come on to it later on, but I think Instagram and lots of the other major web properties have been a massive influence on customer expectations online. And I think it's about understanding when there's a trend that's been set, and it's important for us to, give the customers an experience that they'll find familiar. Like, again, someone walks into your online shop, you want them to feel comfortable as quickly as possible and not be like, oh no, we expect you to interact with our site in a brand new way. I think that's unrealistic. So those were the main things. So part of the reason we were so interested when we started speaking to you was that I recognized there was an opportunity to bring on additional expertise more quickly and expand what we'd be able to deliver. I mean, the website project started just after I joined in March, and obviously we wanted to have the new website up and running before peak. So there wasn't a massive amount of time to turn it around, and I didn't have a lot of development internally. And like you were saying earlier, the solution's good for busy marketers. Well, that's definitely, I'm definitely one of those. So it was appealing from that point of view.
Often as any SaaS provider, as a salesperson, I have to convince people like you to partner with someone like us to solve your problem rather than build it yourself. You touched on the resource and timeline. Us as a provider, was there anything that we offered compared to, because I know you were speaking to other vendors at the time, that sealed that decision to work with us above someone else?
Yeah, there were a few points. One was the technology itself. When we started having those conversations, it became apparent to me quite quickly that you understood the problem really well, and that you had technology that could solve it effectively. And also, I always think that when you're choosing who to partner with, I think it's a mistake to be like, I'm buying a product. Like, you're not buying something from a supermarket and it's consumable. It's an ongoing partnership. So it's about identifying companies that have an ambitious but achievable roadmap. And you're kind of buying that roadmap. I mean, I'm more interested in the features that will be available to the company over the next 3 to 5 years, rather than what we'll get in the first 6 months of the relationship. Obviously, it's important that the initial implementation is solid. So I was encouraged I basically threw pretty much everything I could in terms of making the implementation ambitious from our point of view. Like, I let the designers have free reign, and your guys kept coming back and saying, that's fine, we'll do that. So while I was a little bit nervous that wouldn't actually happen in the way that they'd said, I still think it's a positive sign when, I was like, all right, cool, we'll make it as complicated as possible. And there was absolutely no hesitation that it would be delivered on time. At the same time, I felt the price was really attractive. I mean, I know you said at the time that you were looking to make inroads into the UK market. And I felt that compared to other providers that I'd worked with, I felt the price versus the technology was fantastic. especially given the cost of the implementation. And then, as I was saying before, the other factor was that I felt that if we tried to deliver that in-house, it would put the entire project timeline at risk. And I think looking back on it, I mean, yeah, it would have been impossible to pull off otherwise. And instead, we've got, you know, something that looks pretty nice.
No, it's something we're all very proud of. We're very proud of. What's the thought internally within your organisation of the impact that implementing Findologic has had on Uplift?
There's been a definite conversion rate improvement, and on top of that, it's been very positively received from a kind of qualitative perspective. I mean, people in the company and elsewhere often comment on the slickness of the experience. I've definitely seen uplift in conversion from search, and I think we go on to the detail of that later on. But I think holistically, it's been very impactful. Like I said, we wanted to make a website. I wanted to make a website that people would want to copy. And you know, my plan is to continually innovate so that we're always a little bit further ahead. Overall, positive. You know.
Lovely. Final question I've got for you is: what would you say to those who say, you know, it does the job, it works, we're okay, it will do? You know, we hear a lot of people talking about their search function using those kind of terms.
What came to mind when you said that was, if Google had thought that, I don't think they'd be making so much money right now. I mean, obviously, I sympathise. I can see it both ways, right? Because there's bits of the website that I wish were better, but it does do the job, and there's only so much time and resource to spend on improving things. I think maybe I'd go back to those people and say, you know, what percentage of users conduct a search on your website, and what kind of uplift are you getting compared to your baseline conversion? How much money would you make if you improve the conversion of those users by, I think we've seen more than a 10% uplift in conversion from search users. So that's part of it. I mean, ultimately, another thing I'd say is you never want to get your boss hear you say that, right? Like, if my boss is in the room, I was like, yeah, that's right, it'll do.
Oh, you never want your boss to hear you say that, did you say?
Yeah, can you imagine if like he was sat behind me and I was like, yeah, well, I know it's not great, but it'll do, right? That's not really the ethos that we try and go for. And obviously that is inevitable sometimes, but I don't think it's not really a very defensible position in my point of view.
Lovely, perfect. All right, well, thanks for that. Great to catch up. We're going to go on to some slides now, and I suppose this is the exciting bit where we're actually, you know, giving the guidelines and actually really showing off, you know, all this stuff that these functions on Pour Moi website that people watching today can take away and think about implementing themselves. So we're now going to be showing you some guidelines to best practice CX. We're going to be showing you some really cool features and functions within Findologic, and how that looks in the Pour Moi environment, and actually what that has meant for Pour Moi. So starting off with assisted suggest. This is the most important part of our solution, the bit that I suppose has the biggest impact, most impactful by far. Assisted suggest. This is where from the very first click within the search bar, the website interacts with the user and starts understanding them, what they're looking for, helping them as they start typing, and I suppose changing the product recommendations as the user interacts with the search bar. What you'll see is straight away, products will come up as the users start typing, and like I say, whether it's a misspelt word, whether they put partial word in, whatever it may be, the search bar is there to really help them understand them on that journey and make that interaction, I suppose, quick and as seamless as possible.
Yeah, I mean, as we were saying earlier, I think the assisted suggest is very helpful for customers who aren't sure what they're looking for yet. I mean, I kind of think as soon as the user arrives on the site, and certainly as soon as they click on the search bar, you want to start trying to ease them into the most productive or the most profitable online journeys.
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, we allow customers to actually search by, as you can see as the suggestions come up, you know, you'll see the suggestions for actual search terms. Below that are actually searches that will take them direct to categories. The product recommendations change as the user interacts with the search bar and as they start typing. And then there's even room there, even if you want to direct them to content. So really you're just understanding them and actually directing to any part of the site and however they want to use that search term to navigating through the site quickly and easily.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely one of the bits that I really liked when we were doing the implementation. I mean, I think it's It's a little bit misleading in the sense that actually most users are on mobile. So the mobile version that was on the previous slide is actually far more important, but this one looks really good. I mean, I think certainly when you have all that real estate on desktop, it's nice to really provide a visually rich experience for users.
Yeah, absolutely. We can have variants of images. Like I say, you've got the, the discounted tags. You can bring reviews in. You can put, was now. We can even have different color variants that they can select underneath the product. So absolutely everything is possible here. And, again, it really is, within a few keypad strokes and one click of the mouse, you can direct the user straight to the exact product they're looking for. Like we said earlier, taking those touch points out of the journey and just getting them to that basket stage quicker.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think going back to when we were talking about UX best practice in general, I think one of the best tips for UX is you want to confirm relevant information to the user, so where they are, what they've done, but keep it subtle. So it's got to be clear enough that the user gets the right idea, they're in the right place, they're doing the right thing, like all systems go, without making it intrusive or kind of tacky looking.
Yeah. And again, manageable. I mean, I think in the case of a mobile experience, we have 7 or 8 top tips. Great on mobile. Again, the second that they click on the search bar, we treat mobile totally differently to desktop. And I think we'd speak a bit about mobile later on, but there's limited space on these devices. So therefore, if you think in the case of this image here on the left, the bottom bit that's blacked out is actually where the keyboard would go. So the second that they click on the search bar, those are the top 8 suggestions available. Same in the desktop. You can't really overwhelm customers. Yes, you want to give them suggestions, but 6, 7, 8 is probably enough. At first glance before it's too much for them.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, like we were saying earlier, really the top 3 are the most important. 80% of users are going to pick those top 3, so all the more important that they're as relevant and helpful as possible. It's not necessarily clear from this visual, but actually the way it works in terms of the mobile experience, obviously the users can click on the voice icon to do the voice search. If they click on the little arrow next to bra, you can see it on the right there, it will take them to subcategories of bras, the most popular subcategories of that search, in order to help refine their search into a more granular search term. Or if they search for the top level result, then it'll take them to quite a useful search page. And obviously the search speed is also really good. I mean, really, really, really quick, which obviously is super important when users are just going to bounce or exit as soon as there's any lag in their experience.
Exactly. Lightning speed, we call it. Here's your mobile UX. I mean, you can speak about this really if you want. So this is that exact search term bra, which is obviously one of the most popular term on your site. Do you want to talk about what's happening here, Gareth?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we've been saving this one in a way because, I mean, going to what we were talking about before, bra is the most popular search term. It's a very vague search, really. So this is the Lisa AI-driven refinement product. I think you call it AI shop assistant, don't you? Mm-hmm. And so what it's doing here is it's looking at the most common refinements of bra and then pulling them out as a refinement to offer to the user. So going back to what we were saying before, it's asking the user what they mean, but in a way that's kind of relevant to what they're looking for. So, it's not just what do you mean bra, it's, well, would you like this kind of bra or that kind of bra? And then it will apply those clicks to the filters. That's sort of separate from the more typical filter menu, which you can see on the left there. Which we've allowed customers to search by category, or they can filter by color or pick a price range. I really like this, and when we saw this in the initial demo, I basically thought this is one of those things that I think will become quite common on websites for e-commerce over time, because that's how people search. And I think the example you used when we were talking about it before was if you went into a shop and said you were looking for a bra, they'd probably ask you what kind of bra you wanted, what kind of bras you normally wear. Here are some example bras. Obviously, it shows you a few screenshots there to help the user decide what's going to be relevant for them. There's a couple of other ways it works where it will pull out perhaps 3 different pictures from a similar range, and the user can then pick the pictures that they kind of engage with the most, which then helps refine their experience. I think those kind of more intuitive interactions are going to be better for websites. I kind of think search has been overly technical. I mean, did anyone, when you used to use that advanced search, you could do a search and then you pick all these like, oh, do you mean this, this, or this? And there's like a whole mega menu. Nobody wants to search like that. Yeah, instead, users just kind of want to be able to tap with their thumb and then get something good.
Yeah, exactly that. And again, you have to think, you know, these guys are holding a mobile device in their hand. They've got their thumb halfway up. They've got that tiny little space, you know, to interact with. So exactly on this Lisa feature, I think the two most, you know, Lisa is our AI digital assistant. She brings out what we call skills when it's necessary. So basically what Lisa does, it interrupts the customer journey based on the intent of the user. And two really great skills. So this is, you know, a refining skill in the case where they put bra, where exactly like you said, you go into a shop and you say, I'm looking for a bra. Well, you know, in historical terms, you know, searching for a generic term like that on a website, you just be presented with every single product that contains bra, every bra or anything that goes with a bra or the set that contains a bra, and you just be overwhelmed. However, in a store environment, this is exactly what the shop assistant will say to you. Okay, fine. Well, what kind of bra are you looking for? You know, these are the core ranges. Imagine you go into a store and you say, I'm looking for a nightie or, you know, whatever it may be on your site, but you're not quite sure what you're looking for. The shop assistant can say to the shopper, right, okay, we'll point out some examples, ones that you like, and then I'll get a feel for what it is. And Lisa will too offer, you know, up to 10, 15 products for the customer to flick left to right, just like they would in sort of the Instagram, you know, world. Click on the thumbs up of the ones they like. Based on the attributes of those products that the customer says they like, the search results are then, you know, refined down to a set of results that sort of match those kind of preferences. Exactly like a clever store assistant would do in a shop. We're just replicating that sort of nurtured in-store experience in an online environment where, you know, space, particularly on mobile devices, is so precious. And sticky filters. So how many times have we searched a website, you scroll down on your phone, and then you think, well, actually, no, let me try it in another color, and you scroll all the way up again and down, you know, you just give up. So, you know, we feel that, you know, the refine, you know, the filters, the refine, whatever you want to call it, this button that brings out the extra filters, that should be as accessible at all times, you know, even whilst you're browsing through product listings, you know, always be able to, you know, with not a finger, but the thumb touch, bring those filters back out again and allow you to further draw down or even change the attributes that you've selected to the search.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's really worth mentioning that statistically speaking, users on mobile are more likely to use filters than desktop because they've got less real estate. You can't, like on the desktop category screen, you'll be able to see maybe 20 products at once. You can get a real feel for what you're doing. But on mobile, you don't. So using filters is quite common. So they need to be accessible. I think one of the challenges with mobile is, like we said before, it's about giving the customer the right information, but without being cluttered. So having good icons that communicate what you're doing to the user. I mean, here we've used, I think, a refined menu that was common on several websites that we looked at in our competitive review. And then, like you say, making it stick, but also keeping it relatively small so it doesn't take up too much space.
I think another thing to, you know, certainly in my years working in e-commerce is that I find that even the, you know, really established stores are actually trying to cram their desktop environment and setup into a mobile device. And really, it's just so important that more people are browsing on mobiles than not. So I think that's a consideration. So, you know, and I think you really need to treat your desktop environment as totally separate. You know, it's a different kind of behavior, limited space. You know, people don't want the hassle, they don't want the frustration, they just literally just want to very easily and quickly, you know, replicate what they do on a big screen in something quite smaller, and it has to be a completely different approach. And I think what you've done with your mobile experience is fantastic. It's, you know, it's class, world class.
Well, I think I was very lucky. We've got a great design team, so that they're the ones who deserve all the credit, really. But yeah, I think you're right. I remember when I was working a few years ago and we were starting to talk about how we needed to design mobile first, but it was more like something that people kept repeating as a mantra. I certainly think it's gotten to the point now where, you know, I mean, we've got, I think 85% of visits are on mobile now. It wouldn't surprise me if it's 90% within another year. You know, like I say, it's the most common way of interacting. If anything, I try and remind people that when they're looking at the website, they should look on their phone first because that's what customers see. It's all well and good to make your desktop experience nice, but it's more like a show and tell environment. It's not a realistic shopping environment.
Totally. Talking that, I mean, certainly at Findologic, we for a number of years have developed any features and functions that we build are always mobile first in line. So in fact, we actually build the environment for mobile, then we adapt it to desktop rather than the other way around like most people are doing. Which actually, again, centralized elements. So this is where you spoke earlier on about how we're almost mimicking, Instagram and those other kind of environments where certainly the millennials of today just are so familiar with. So, like I say, why not create an environment that is as comfortable and as familiar with them, to make them enjoy and I suppose use the site without even thinking, it's the kind of navigation skills that they're just doing on so many other sites too.
100%. I mean, I think, I can't remember, was one of my senior managers the other day was saying he always has trouble with his laptop. So when his kids try and use his laptop, they keep pressing the screen and expecting it to work. They pinch it and try and make the photos bigger. And I'm like, you can't blame users for the fact that good companies have established UX credentials. Like, these are massive companies, and like they've kind of got users used to pinching and like multi-touch features on mobile. So for example, what we did was we've implemented the swipe left thing that you have on Instagram to view the next photo. And I just think it's things like that, and recognizing when it's becoming so good, it's such a nifty solution that someone's done that it has to be adopted. It's become standard practice, and we can either like keep up or lose out, really.
Almost becomes
it can be tricky recognizing when that's happened. But like you say, I think it's about trying to create an environment that's comfortable for your users. So in some cases, it's a question of like thinking about where your users are from. We're very Instagram heavy. It's a major channel for us. So that's one of the reasons we wanted to try and not necessarily replicate, but let that influence our design aesthetic.
Yeah, totally. Space on screen is so limited and so precious that, certainly in the majority of the integrations that we do, certainly in a mobile environment, we try and keep 3 specific functions very separate. So people are either searching, they're navigating and filtering, or they're actually browsing. I think this kind of off-canvas sort of overlay search and navigation is very effective.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think going back to what we were saying a second ago about the influences of major tech companies, I think the app ethos and imagining that, anyone using a phone is used to using apps, and trying to think of your website the way you would think about it if it was an app and you were building it as an app can be really helpful when you're doing your mobile UX. Sometimes I like to have like a whole bottom bar on some websites, particularly if you're talking about a non-shopping experience where there's quite a lot of menus and stuff. Then it can be helpful to be like, okay, let's imagine it's an app and do the wireframe that way and then go from there. That can be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the logic side. So I suppose this was a very key feature for you guys around, you mentioned earlier around the merchandising, but I suppose overriding. So I suppose there are 3 elements to the logic that sit behind the results that Findologic delivers on your site and everyone else that we work with. The first is the standard, relevance. So, title, description, that kind of thing. The second part is the actual personalization elements where, we have got a personalization function within our solution where it sort of remembers certain affiliations. So in the case of yourselves, it could be size, it could be color, it could be certain brand affiliations, but within other fashion sites, it could be gender, that kind of thing. And then obviously we have the merchandising features that you guys can control too. So where, you talked about your top sellers, it may be, certain stock level, it may be certain brands that you want to push over others. It just really gives you, the retailer, I suppose, the full control over exactly, just like in a store environment where you'd want certain things in the window, certain things as they come into a store at eye level, certain ones as they're walking up to the tills, certain things very prominent in the middle of the store. Then there may be other things that, you don't want so much in front of the customer that you put on the top shelf, bottom shelf, in the corner, whatever it may be. You can obviously replicate that using merchandising features in an online environment, which I think is key to, keeping conversion rate as high as possible and managing your stock and running your business, I suppose, in a way that is profitable for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was one of the primary reasons I wanted to upgrade our search solution, and the fact that it addresses search, but it also addresses all your category pages using the same logic, to me was a big win. Because, for example, I want the profits with the best margin, best stock availability, or maybe, like you say, the ones that we're pushing as hero products to show up first. I think that's just, like you say, I mean, I kind of think, going to the shop analogy, yeah, you want your visual merchandiser sorting out your shop window. But on a website, you can have that happening in real time on a personalized one-to-one basis for each customer, showing them the products that are either most likely to convert them or will generate the best value for us as a business. And I think that's something we all need more and more of as we're building bigger and bigger and more complex e-commerce environments. It's helpful to have these kind of automations that are helping improve performance all the time.
Lovely. No, quick and easy setup. I demo our back office quite often, and it's seconds. If you say show brand A over brand B with this weighting, that's a rule that you can literally set up in seconds, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's very straightforward.
Yeah, perfect. Lovely. And then dead ends. I do demos all the time for websites in all different sectors, and often just playing around with people's filters. They'll often say, you want this shirt. What color do you want it in? Red, black, blue. And I'll say, oh, blue, please. Click on blue. No, sorry, we don't sell it in blue. How that happens in today's world, I don't know. But I really believe, that the right solution behind your search and navigation will always ensure that not only people are directed to the products they're looking for, but they're also never directed to products that either you don't sell or you don't have in stock or don't exist.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of think this one's fairly straightforward, regardless of whether you're using a basic search, just using GA to track your search terms and you're doing it all manually, or whether you've got a more intelligent solution. But like we said before, people who search have a high intent to purchase, 3 to 4 times higher than usual. So those customers are really valuable, and you don't ever want them to get to a point where you're like, no, sorry, we've got nothing for you. We've always got something for someone, right? At least that's how we should be approaching the problem. So yeah, I'm right with you. You've just got to dig into your search data and find those dead ends, and then find a recommendation, even if it's just putting like a standard carousel in there of your best sellers and being like, maybe one of these would be a good option. That's pretty straightforward to implement. And totally still better than a 404.
Absolutely. One thing as well within our set, that I think one of the first options on our back office is actually the I suppose the highest search terms that haven't generated results. So we obviously within our self-learning library, we track all the typical plurals, misspellings, t-shirt, 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 t-shirt altogether, whatever it may be. Those certain ones are there. However, often people are looking for, it may be that they're looking for brands that you don't sell. It may be that they're misspelling a word in a way that none of us have ever seen misspelled before, but I get surprised every day when I see this stuff. Or even in different sectors where people are actually looking for redundant model numbers, for example, that no longer exist but have been replaced by other model numbers. There's the ability to, manipulate all of this very quickly within the back office. We're actually saying, someone says this, give them that. And it's really, really great to, like I say, divert. Exactly, again, in a store environment, someone goes in and says, I'm looking for, this product. Well, actually, no, we don't have that, but you may like that. That will only happen if you, you train the product to respond to that.
Yeah, definitely. I report on no result searches pretty much every week as part of standard reporting. And then, if there's enough volume there, I'll make sure to put in a synonym if a synonym makes sense. And sometimes more like a redirect. Technically it's still a synonym, but I think it was people were searching for teddies, which is a type of nightwear, like sexy nightwear, and we don't sell those, but we do sell chemises that can be quite lacy. So I was like, fine, well, we'll direct it there until such time as product development catches up, and that's driven more sales now. So it's keeping an eye on your data is really important, I think.
Obviously something like this is standard. Like I say, I think within our solution, we've agreed that, majority of it's covered, but there will always be those cases where, you'll want to manually, override or redirect, however you want to say it. And like I say, the rules are, you can create them in seconds, which is pretty cool.
Like we were saying before, I think we have to accept that we're in this post-Google reality. You can search on your phone, like you can just say, okay, Google, and then just spout, you can just mumble at your phone and it'll probably work out what you meant and give you a useful search off the back of it. And that's what people are growing up with and getting used to. And then they come onto our websites and we offer them sometimes a much lower experience to search, and they're going to be dissatisfied by that. And I just think as long as Google's out there raising the bar, then we have to try and do our best to provide at least an equivalent experience on our own websites.
Certainly. What we're also seeing is, we define, I'm going back to my archaic internet days, but there are different groups of people searching online, and there's a group that we call the silver surfers. So I'm probably not far off myself, but these are the people that maybe have been forced in the last year and a half to maybe shop more online than what they would normally have done. These people, may not be as experienced online, have got less tolerance, less understanding of the internet sometimes, and really need to be understood, and really need, when they're misspelling stuff, or, putting search terms in that maybe aren't the typical way of searching, they need to be understood. And at the same time, at the other end of the scale, you've got what we call the millennials, and they've got no tolerance whatsoever. They expect, the website to respond to them, to understand them, to complete things for them. They'll purposely put things in, misspelled, because they know or expect that it will recognize them, because they're so used to interacting with sites online. So I think this kind of stuff is more important than ever at the moment, to just really, understand people, understand incorrect search terms, and direct, to really understand what they're looking for, and regardless of how they search or what they put, and direct them to, what they expect to see. One thing you guys did as well, which I loved about your integration, one of the really key features that I think is setting a new trend in the way we're doing desktop integrations, is using sticky filters on desktop too. It's not the norm yet. It's certainly an evolving way of, and for me, I think it's totally best practice, by the way. But this is a new trend now where we're seeing filters actually sticky, i.e. remaining at the top of the page when people scroll down, even in the desktop environment. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that for me, it was something we wanted to do in the redesign. I mean, going to my point about UX, as you can see, as it scrolls down, you can see what filters you've got applied to your search, and you can then change them or add more and remove them. I mean, you don't want to get really far down a category page and then being like, what exactly am I looking at again? Are these padded or underwired? The user shouldn't have to scroll, and as soon as you expect the user to be like, oh, go and double check that for me, I mean, they're not working, they're shopping. So you want to make sure they've got all the information they need to make a purchase at all times. So I thought that was just definitely something we wanted to do. It's difficult to make it super seamless, but I think we've got a nice implementation.
Yeah. As well on the filters, like I say, the fact that they're at the top of the product pages obviously gives you more width on the screen to showcase products. What I also love that you've got, and you'll see to the right-hand side of the core filters, is the more filters button. So obviously people are, more filters, it's playing there on the right, where you've got your standard 5, size, price, whatever it may be. But then there's a second level of filters for those people that want to do more of an advanced search, which I think is great too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of feel that from some of my experience in, for example, menu navigation, is that going back to so we had the home car example, right? Throwing everything with the kitchen sink at it. I think filters can be like that. We can be tempted to be like, oh, let's give the user more buttons and more options, because then it'll be, we'll be serving all these use cases. And I'm like, but most users don't want loads of options. They want the most popular options to be effective. But obviously it's good to have those filters for those users who need them. If anything, I think the next step for us is to add more tracking to all the filters, so we can really start to understand what are our users choosing to engage with and not engage with. Mm-hmm. And if we're not using a filter, then it shouldn't be taking up space, because before that we had all our filters visible. And I felt that was basically distracting users from the important things that they needed to do their shopping. Yeah,
perfect. And again, in our back office, you can obviously disable a filter at subcategory level. You can move it from top level to secondary level too, reorder them. So that's something quite easy. We make quite easy for you guys yourself. So when you do that testing, that's something that you can tweak again in seconds through our back office, which is...
Yeah, that's true. That's actually a really nice feature, because you can actually control the filters independently for each category, which wasn't something that we could do using our CMS. And it was one of the things that people wanted to be able to do. Like, for example, in this example, you can filter here by category. But if you're already in, say, bras, then having bras in one of your filter menus is a waste of a filter, because obviously they're bras already. So instead, we would want to surface the bra subcategory menu, so that then they can pick the bra type. So it's really useful to be able to have that kind of granularity in your filter control.
Exactly. No, we've noticed again with our other fashion partners, for example, categories that we'd use in, caps or scarves, for example, but accessories is very different to, different clothing categories. And so many sites that we're auditing at the moment are just so limited and actually have to have it's an all or nothing. And many of these filters are just irrelevant and just annoy people. They're there for the sake of being there. They don't need to be. Perfect. And then personalization elements. So, I mean, we offer as part of our solution, the personalisation element. I said earlier on, it's more of affiliation. So we will recognise certain affiliations that each customer has with a colour, a brand, a gender, you know, and we can train the site to learn all of that as part of your integration process. It just means that the results are, you know, more personalised for each user, and obviously boost conversion as a result. The joy of this is it's not actually cookie fed, so we're not reliant on cookies. It's actually all stored on local storage, which is great. So you know, these threats from Google, where they're saying that they're going to eradicate them all, won't be affected by that at all. On top of that, we can integrate with any third-party personalisation specialists. So we've got partnerships with people like Nosto, and that allows you to, you know, bring all the Nosto data in and make that experience even more personalised for the user too.
Yeah, I mean, this was definitely part of the solution that made me want to work with you. My background's working in personalisation before I was at Pour Moi. I know we've talked a lot about the shop analogy, but actually one of the most common arguments I use to senior managers when I'm talking about e-commerce nowadays is that one size fits all is quite a dated concept, really. I mean, there's no reason why we can't serve fully dynamic, one-to-one, real-time web experiences for everyone. Like if it was a shop, it would be a shop that could change the window, the color of the window, the position of the door, the number of people in the shop, the size of the shop, all in real time for each person walking in. And why wouldn't you do that? I mean, I appreciate it's not like a, you know, you can't just press it and turn it on, and it requires a certain amount of understanding of the problem. I mean, going to the slide, I think it's more that people start need to looking into what is possible with AI and machine learning and start to think about how they could adapt it to their own business models. But, you know, once you have all your data set up and you're working with the right technology partners, then you can really start to serve up some really, really impressive experiences, and it drives massive improvements in conversion. And I kind of think ultimately, like you're saying, it's what customers are getting used to. I mean, in this case, I think it's more Amazon than Google, but, you know, Amazon have some of the best personalized recommendations of products for obvious reasons, and they've got whole teams working on getting AI to work nicely with their customers. So I just kind of think it's an inevitability, and we have to kind of think about how to make it work for us.
Absolutely. Lovely. So personalized journeys. So, you know, from a Findologic perspective, the Lisa, so the AI digital shopping assistant, two elements of personalization. There's the one side where we recognize each customer based on their affiliation, like I said, to certain brands, certain colors, certain sizes, that kind of thing. But then the journeys are also personalized based on the customer's intent. So it may be, again, as a customer goes into store and they need inspiration, they need guidance, they need information, all of that is sort of recognized by Lisa, and then she jumps in each of these three examples. So in the first example, what we spoke about earlier, where someone's searching for a bra, Lisa's coming in and thinking, right, the customer's looking for a bra, but you know, what kind of, you know, we do lots of bras and maybe they need a bit of help in working out, you know, what kind of bra they're looking for. In the second example, and this is what I spoke about earlier, this is the inspiration skill, which is where Lisa will jump in and say, right, I'm going to show you some examples of products that I think you're going to like. You obviously flick left to right like you would on an Instagram environment, pick out the products that, you know, that are interesting to you, and then the results will actually be dynamically changed based on the attributes of each of those products. So if you're selecting a certain style, a certain color, a certain fit, whatever it may be, all of that be recognized. The AI element will also look at, you know, what other customers have bought when they've looked at these products, and then the results will, you know, appear sort of personalized to what you said that you like. Then on the third one is more of a brand search. So again, you know, the customer selected a certain brand, and then Lisa's coming in saying, great, well, we've got loads of products by that brand. Let's separate them down at category level, and I'll show you, you know, each of those branded products in category by category to sort of help the experience be a bit more logical for you.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this was one of the things about what you do that I really thought was cool. And I've been really excited to get this on. And I'm very confident this is going to help drive additional conversion for us, as well as, I honestly think this is one of those things that's going to become more and more standard in terms of how people shop. Because once you see it in place, you're like, oh yeah, why wouldn't we do that? Especially given what we were saying, that these searches for like bra and stuff, these are the kind of things people search for. So we need to be addressing these upper funnel searches if we're going to give people the best experience.
Yep. Great. Personalized results. This is where I was speaking about earlier. So like I say, Findologic, our solution, it personalizes the journeys. based on intent, then the results again are personalized based on affiliation. So in this case, the customer's clearly got an affiliation with red. So there's a bonus, I suppose, applied to any products of the color red.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on this a little bit before, but I think the thing to understand about personalization for people who are still getting used to it, I mean, obviously you can work with a provider like Findologic, do personalization within their search, or I know Nosta obviously do personalization with things like content. The thing to understand from the e-commerce side of how to make personalization really work for you is it's about providing the system with data sets that are helpful. So in this case, color is a really strong differentiator. The kind of things you want to look out for in your data are things that will apply to most of your products, but won't have loads of different options. So gender is a good one because it's going to be, well, I mean, modern day it could be several, but certainly like no more than 4 options across the majority of your products. In reality, it's probably going to be 2, and our product will be one or the other. So it's very easy for a machine learning solution to work out a user's affinity to male or female products or red or black products, as opposed to if you have something with loads of sub options, it can take a very long time or lots of data and lots of visits for machine learning to understand that user's affinities. So sometimes it's about going through your back end and being like, how could I group my products differently? One of the things I'm trying to work out now is, could I broadly slice the products on the website into, say, sexy versus non-sexy, or sexy versus everyday products, so that they're in 2, maybe 4 groupings, maybe formal wear versus comfy wear, because that's the sort of thing I think a machine will be able to understand more quickly, rather than if I say, try and understand the materials of the products, then there are so many combinations of materials in all our products that it would take our website to be probably 10 times bigger and the machine learning to take 6 months to optimize itself. So it can be tricky, but working with partners who understand AI, they can start to educate us around what are some good approaches to getting the best out of the AI. Because I think, you want to work with companies who've got good data science teams, but also it's about understanding how to get the best out of the technology that they're selling us. So that's worth thinking about.
Okay, fantastic. Cool. So I know some great numbers here on what's actually what it's actually driven.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this was definitely the sort of thing we were looking for. I was really pleased with the 20% uplift in sessions from search, because that was part of the redesign. Obviously, the improvement in conversion and average order value were things that we were hoping for. And I think it certainly speaks to the improved relevancy of the results. It's difficult to quantify things like enhanced usability, but I always try and relate it back to when people try and sell me on doing brand advertising. I'm more of a direct marketer, right? So it's all about ROI. But having a website that feels modern, slick, with a great design, will go a long way to establishing your credibility as a brand with your customers. And it's difficult to measure things like that, but they really, really help. And introducing Lisa, like I said, has been a real step forward, I think, as well, for our mobile commerce experience.
Lovely.
So I've said it before, but I think it's really worth thinking about that. I know it's difficult because we're all in, as marketers and e-commerce professionals, particularly in smaller businesses, we don't have the resources of these large tech companies, but that doesn't mean that they're not shaping user expectations. And I think it's good that there are now options for people with smaller marketing budgets to get kind of access to the technology that's going to replicate those experiences. In terms of the second takeaway, I'd say that the marketing technology market gets more fragmented every year. There's thousands and thousands of providers now with extremely niche, specialized product offerings. So for me, as an e-commerce manager, what I'm often thinking about is how can I identify technology trends and partners that are going to help provide that are going to improve my shopping experience for my customers, but also that I can have confidence that will integrate smoothly into my existing tech stack. I want to be able to feel that I'm picking out the best providers from every niche category. And then in theory, I want to kind of mold them all together into a single experience. Yeah. That's not always easy to do, but I think that's definitely the goal. So recognizing when you've got a provider that's going to work with you and that will give you access to their development resource. And you don't want to, for example, work with someone where you sign up with them and they go, here you go, there's the libraries, off you go. Because again, if you've got a great dev team and you've got lots of resources, that might be okay. But I think you want to be working with people who are keen to work with you to make sure that you get the best service. If they can't find it, they can't buy it. I think that speaks for itself. But like I was saying before, relevancy is critical, and not just in search, but just in general with your website experience. You want to be giving the customers what they need when they need it. And as we said before, it will do. I mean, I always think, just imagine you're speaking to your CEO and then just be like, yeah, well, it'll do. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that to them. But
and
I guess,
CEO, and as a CEO, I doubt you want to hear that really either. No.
you know what I mean? No. Yeah, well, it'll do, won't it?
Mm.
Yeah. I certainly think thinking about your whole project end to end is really important. I mean, it's not about how it works on day one. It's not about how well it goes in the first month. It's about looking at your progress over 3 years to 5 year periods. And that's about making sure you're working with the right people.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed our presentation. Thank you very much, Gareth, for taking the time to do this today with us. It was great fun, and it's really, really great to see how Pour Moi has evolved and developed. And really, I think the bar that you guys are setting now is incredibly high and something you should be very proud of. For anyone that's been watching the seminar this afternoon and would like to speak to us about your own online CX, we'd be very happy to engage with you. We're actually offering anyone from the NES seminar a complimentary 1 hour audit of your website, where we look at 10 key areas of your online CX and come back to you with any suggestions, I suppose, where we believe that the journey could be improved and will actually allow you to make your site monetize itself more. If you need to speak to me, by all means, get in touch. My email address is there. Phone number reaches me wherever I am. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and Gareth's details too are there.
Thanks again for having me down. It was lovely to be here.